So, welcome to everybody. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing all right, man. This is a little different, kind of fun.
Yeah, we're giving this a go. We're trying to do more of these more often. And I'm not sure if it'll be here on the Facebook page. If it is on the Facebook page or in the Facebook group, right now it's in the Facebook group. If it is in the Facebook page, I'm not sure which one's better. I'll put a link to it in the Facebook group. So, and I'll be kind of going back and forth between what I see when I'm running here on my screen and what you guys see. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions. Maybe if Michael wants to man the questions, he can do that. But he'll also be making his comments as we go along. So let's see. Actually, I'm gonna make it so that you can see things. I have to move Michael around a little bit. Here, I'll just do this. Let's see. See if I can get the positioning of this right on the first try. There we go. Coming out of quarantine, be like, have a giant beard, no shaving. Be like Mike. So the idea behind this is that I have been really thinking and brainstorming a lot on like how can people essentially be better off in an ethical way after this is all over, because we don't know when this is going to end. Maybe it'll be May, maybe it'll be June, maybe it'll be longer. We don't know. But there's going to be a huge hit to a lot of businesses, and that's going to have ripple effects through the economy. And so the good news is that you do have some amount of control. There will be businesses that will be wildly successful. And I wanted to go over some of the ideas that Michael and I have talked about, and maybe some that we haven't talked about on how they will do this. And then I have sort of like my biggest kind of simple recommendation. Any starting thoughts for you, Michael?
Yeah, with what's going on right now, there is really no precedence for it, right? The only precedence is going to be beyond the lifespan of most people that are here on Earth, right? So in the U.S., you might get to something that happened in the Great Depression where it affected that many businesses. And so the best thing that we can do, in my opinion, is kind of look back on those periods in history and see what certain businesses did to succeed when they weren't like just in the lucky, niche. Because obviously there's some things that are going to be affected, and it doesn't matter how great you are as like a restaurant entrepreneur, you're just not going anywhere right now unless you just have a huge delivery model, right? So some of it's going to be luck on where you are, but for the ones that are going to be affected, for most businesses, I think going back and looking at what's happened before is going to be a good part about what we do.
Yeah. So feel free to interject any specifics as we go along here. Michael hasn't seen the presentation I'm gonna do, so he'll be kind of putting in his things as we go along. And now he's decided to cover up what I wanted to show. How dare you, Michael? All right, let's put him back in the corner. There we go. Okay, so I think it all starts with mindset. And Michael and I have talked about this, and kind of your attitude is really something that you have a lot of control over. And really focusing on, it's not like ignoring the bad things, ignoring the people in your life if they're sick, or ignoring if your business has taken a big hit, but having the attitude, intentionally controlling your attitude so that you are putting yourself in a position to improve where you're at. Everybody's in a different position, and so I'm not saying that it's going to be go from now to millionaire in 2 or 3 months or something, but I'm saying that you can be better off with a better attitude than not. And Michael, what do you think about having a good attitude?
I think the attitude is definitely the most important part here because, there's only so much you can control, but the thing that you can't control is how you react and your attitude to different things. So.
Yeah. I'm also a big fan of gratitude. I try to remember what I do have, even that when things are going really poor, thinking about the things that you do have, because you have people who are wealthy, healthy, and have everything, and they're really sad and they feel crappy all the time. Why is that? There could be all sorts of reasons, but sometimes it's just they're focusing on the negative thing. And the negative things, as you can see, my kind of fourth point here. By just reminding yourself, I just spend like 2 minutes every day in the morning, like, okay, here's some things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I have an abundant amount of water. I'm grateful I have an abundant amount of food right now. Not everybody has that. I'm grateful that me and my family are not sick right now. I'm grateful I have a business that so far seems pretty good. I think that a lot of the business that we're running is going to be pretty successful going forward. Another point, Michael, do you practice gratitude? Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. I don't do it regularly. It is something I'm wanting to integrate into my like daily routine, and it's actually a big part on some of the things that I've seen you talk about as well. So
Yeah, and I won't claim to be perfect. I
Mhm.
shoot to do it every day. Most days I think I do it, even if it's just for a minute. Even if it's just remembering one thing that you're grateful for, and it can be so super simple. So it's just such an easy habit. And what it does, it kind of tells your brain. It gives your brain kind of positive signals. So also be expectant. If you go out there and you do the work and you discipline and you're gonna be, you should expect success at some point. It's not gonna be overnight, but you should expect to move forward in your business, and this is going to help you, kind of look for what's the positive instead of trying to make excuses for, well, I didn't succeed because of blah blah blah. And speaking of positives, there's a technique that is very, very useful. I'm going to just call it positive questions, but there's a big difference between saying, let's say, can I turn my business around versus how can I turn my business around? You're kind of giving your brain different signals with the two different questions, and one of them is much more productive than the other. Don't ask how you can do it, don't ask can you do it, just ask how you can do it. And what it does is, even if it's very unlikely that you'll get it done, you're much more likely to get it done if you ask how instead of can. Do you have any thoughts on any ideas about positive questions?
I think positive questions play a super important role in it, right? The context of your questions, and then making sure that there's some type of I like actually the saying that you say. I think you got it from David Mills, that success is inevitable, right? And looking at the question as you already have a solution in mind, or there's an outcome that you're looking for maybe on the other side, so you can phrase those questions, and not to put any confirmation bias behind it where you're going after a specific thing, but trying to keep open to whatever is going to be flowing through there. Because if you have a specific outcome in mind that you're trying to achieve, and then you're asking questions and asking these positive questions on how you can do certain things, or raising your level of understanding for different things, then it's a complete game changer.
Yeah, some simple starting questions are, what are some good positive questions? That's actually, I'm not joking. It's kind of silly, but at the same time, I'm not joking. And another example would be, how can I grow my business right now? What are the most important things that I can do to move my business forward? These are some common questions that I'll ask myself. Just some really simple stuff, and then go from there. Answer the questions, and then ask yourself more, and just keep doing that. And spend a lot of time doing that. That's going to be really helpful. Okay, I want to talk also a little bit about industries. So let's move Michael back.
I'm like doing a little dance here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I kind of want to talk about like good versus bad industries and niches, and I'm gonna talk to Michael about some things, and curious about his thoughts, and he's given me a few ideas on this, and some of this stuff I haven't even talked to him about. So the overall economy is definitely gonna be hit. Like even if everybody stayed at work and we ignored it, and still lots and lots of people would die, and that's going to hit the economy. But you kind of, if everybody's staying home, then then less people die, and you still have a huge hit to the economy. Obviously, there's businesses going under. It's definitely going to happen. Even these restaurants, I think a lot of these restaurants, if they have cash saved up, then they're just trying to stay in. They're trying to lose as little money as possible. I think that they're still losing a ton of money, but it's hard to say. And so that is going to have ripple effects on all across different sectors, even businesses that are unintuitively going to be affected. But there is some good news, and there are areas in which you can be opportunistic, and you can consider how to grow your business. And I want to talk about. So I still have my lead gen sites, and it's mostly like home services type stuff. And I looked at the March data, and I was shocked. it was way higher than I expected. I'm gonna have my best month by far with lead gen, and this isn't about like, oh, how to sell lead gen. You should do lead gen. I haven't really worked on it a whole lot, and it's been pretty steady at about like $8,000 a month for the last like 3 or 4 months, and it shot up significantly this last month. And I was like, well, are the calls just worth more? No, there's just more calls. And what I suspected before, and I think it's more true than I expected, was that so you have a bunch of people. This is little emojis. You have a bunch of people that are staying at home more often. They're using their facilities more often, so the toilets and their electrical, and so they're needing. It's more wear and tear. So it's sort of like if you drive your car 100,000 miles versus 1,000 miles, it's going to have a lot more wear and tear. And so a lot of these home services niches, like plumbing and electrical and a bunch of other stuff, they're just like pretty much across the board, they're getting a lot of calls. Now, this is not true for every niche. I think for kind of optional niches, like maybe like home remodeling, I think that they're not doing as well. I don't have the data to back that up, but more like urgent things, like your toilet is clogged or you have a water leak. You can't like not get that fixed because you have to live, right? So you have to call the plumber out. Michael, do you have any thoughts on sort of like the home services niche?
Yeah, it really anything that home service wise that can be done on the house that the contractor doesn't have to go in, right, is still affected. So, like for example, here in Florida we have lockdown. We have the lockdown in effect statewide, and they put out the document on what would they consider like urgent or what would they consider businesses to be critical, right? And I don't think that's not actually the word that they're using, but the home, like every category of home services is in there, including lawn care.
Yeah.
So, and that one was actually a shock to me, but including lawn care was on there. But from the home service niche, I think that's a great niche to be in.
Well, I was looking at my grass getting really long, and I was thinking, well, I don't have a lawnmower. I'm not going to go get a lawnmower right now. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of open air, so maybe that makes sense. But I mean, you got to have these people coming out, and I imagine some of them are still getting hit, but in general, some of them are doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about my kids' lessons. So this is really interesting, and I think there's some really big opportunities here. My violin teacher, my kids' violin, piano, and ballet teachers have all gone to like Zoom to do kind of remote lessons. And so, I think some of them are probably struggling still, but this presents a whole new world of opportunities. Last point I have here, brick and mortar to online /info. I've thought that, if I was in the market, let's say I had just been like laid off or something, and I was looking for a new business, I thought a really good business idea would be to really urgently do like research on how to enable brick and mortar businesses to become more online, and to run an online business and to provide services like that. So for example, my kids go to swim lessons, and I was just thinking, these guys, they're just shutting everything down, but they could probably do either online swim lessons to where they have like a bigger audience and they could kind of do it nationally, or they could also there's a lot in Texas especially, there's a lot of families with pools, and it's getting kind of warm here. They could shoot training, info business to sell it to parents. This is how you teach your kids how to swim. Now, I'm not saying for sure that could work, but I'm saying that there's some opportunities to help businesses do that if that's what you want to do. It's not what I'm going to do because I've got my focuses, and you can only do so many things. I wouldn't add this. I'm not a big fan of being kind of a general consultant. I don't think it's a great way to be super profitable and scale your business. And then restaurants are definitely a hit. Michael, you told me about massage therapy client. Hope you don't mind me sharing that, and how why don't you tell it? What happened?
Yeah, so I actually have clients that are restaurants, masseuses, and swim lessons. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, and so not only have that business side of it taken a hit, but those businesses directly. So restaurants have to go. They have to go to either curbside or delivery, right? And it just really depends on the restaurant. So I actually, not only do I have clients in there, but I also have siblings that also manage restaurants for larger corporations, right?
Okay.
And they're seeing about a 90% reduction in revenue.
A 90% reduction in revenue. And so
90% reduction.
they're
So even though
losing
there's
money so that people know that they're staying in business essentially because they don't want to close down.
they've gone to skeleton crews, like all pretty much all the wait staff has been let go, and they're only doing people in the kitchen, and then one or two other persons that are running things out, and those are generally the managers because those are harder to replace than the wait staff. So the restaurants are being hit huge. As far as masseuse goes, I have a client that actually goes into corporate locations and does like chair massages and yoga lessons, stuff like that. They lost all their business in the month of March and April, like 100% had gone like overnight. And then the swim lesson, I just had a meeting with them this morning, and they have 4 clients left. And well, I don't know out of how many, but well, that's tough to say because they have like full-time and part-time instructors, but they have like 20 instructors to give you an idea that it's not a small company, right? And so to go from being able to support 20 full-time and part-time instructors to having 4 people are still taking lessons, that's a big drop. Well, they do lessons actually in the pools of people at home. In Florida, we have pools everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah, like in Texas. So.
Online or in any sort of way?
No, actually, what they're doing right now, they had thought about doing like lessons, like you were saying, to sell to the parents, but that would kind of eat away a little bit on their core business. And they actually own 2 businesses, a restaurant and a swim lesson. So they're like getting hit on like both sides of it. So actually what they're doing right now is we had started, before all this started happening, we had started rebuilding a website for them. And so they're focusing on getting a really solid foundation. So when it does come back, like everything is all good for them. So
yeah, I see a lot of that's the attitude that some of my clients have had. One of my clients is a personal injury lawyer, and we were talking the other day, and it was like, well, people aren't driving as much, and so the accidents are way lower. He's like, the people calling me is way less, but he's like, we can still take this time. He's not firing anybody at his practice. We're gonna take this time to focus on building for the future, so when it does come back, we're stronger than ever. And that's the right attitude. It's a good client. And obviously some clients are going to be able to do that and some are not. Some are just going to be like, I don't have the money to pay you. Just another idea, like any industry, like if you try to find webcams online, those are really hard to find. Anything that supports kind of remote work, you have, I think it's different for different school districts and stuff, but a lot of kids are doing school from home from their laptops.
Mhm.
And I hear Zoom is on everybody's, everybody's talking about Zoom. So I imagine like whoever owns Zoom, or if you were to invest in Zoom stock, I bet their stock price has gone way, way up. And it's just an example of, there's a lot of different companies like that are going to be able to, they're going to do really well. Even during the Depression, there were a lot of companies and a lot of people that made a lot of money in ways that weren't just like, taking advantage of people. So it's not like yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Okay, so I think I have something else. Let me see. Let me move you over here. Do the Michael dance. Oh no, just kind of good versus bad companies. I think that there's also some companies that they're just kind of living month to month. And in any industry, and these people are probably going to be more fearful and more likely to kind of clamp down, as opposed to companies that have been profitable for many years, and they come and they have healthy, they have cash flow, like cash in the bank to kind of absorb a hit right here and to really think about continuing going. And so, trying to filter for companies that you think are like, this is for a long time, and someone tells me they're kind of a startup, it's really a bad sign, and I'm not as inclined to want to sign them, just because they can't absorb the hits as much. Well, a company who's been running for 15 years, doing the same thing, they clearly have made some money, or else they probably wouldn't be a business most of the time. So trying to have good clients, I think, is going to be good. Michael, what do you see as like your way of like kind of identifying? Say you could focus on two different clients. One would be someone that you think would probably not be very healthy, and one that would be probably very healthy.
Yeah, and those are great questions as far as like longevity goes, because typically if they're size and longevity are going to be two good indicators. If it's a startup, the difference between a funded startup and one that's being bootstrapped, there's a huge difference in their ability to be able to weather the storms on this kind of stuff. But yeah, the kind of questions that I'm asking right now when I'm in my sales calls are really have to do with like not only how long they've been in business, but like the change in business that's happened for them over the last few months. And that's I'm spending 5 or 10 minutes talking about that with people, just to make sure that they haven't lost all their business during this time.
Yeah, I think you bring up something that I neglected to put into here, but I think that the world and business and personal stuff has changed forever. There's going to be a new normal. Just like there's going to be a bunch of companies that didn't consider like allowing employees to work from home, even though they could, that are being forced to do that, and maybe they're realizing, oh wait, in some ways, at least for some employees, this is actually much better, and it saves them money, and it saves the employee might like it more because they don't have to commute, whatever. There's all sorts of different potential positives, and so we're going to see. So thinking about like what's the new normal. And talking about that with companies and seeing how they respond, I think is going to tell you a lot about kind of if they're a good or bad company. If they're just freaking out, or they just like, well, they just don't have the money, then that's going to be a problem. Okay.
Yeah, I actually, one last thing on there is whenever we're looking at like good company and bad company kind of stuff, if you're in a sales call situation, the mindset of the decision maker is going to be super important. Because if they're talking about like things like weathering the storm or let's just wait and see and things like that, it's not going to be somebody that you necessarily want right now, because if they start something with you, chances are it's going to be very high that they cancel if this gets prolonged any kind of significant. If it gets going out 60 or 90 days, they might just cancel after the first 30 days and say, I'm not interested. Or even after the first couple of weeks, they might get cold feet, right? Yeah. So if they're looking at improving their situation, if they're talking about the language of how they're speaking to you about improving their situation, kind of reloading, getting a good solid foundation, those are the types of conversations or the type of phrases that you're going to be looking for when talking to them.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I trust. I've talked to a lot of business owners lately, and there's a lot of people with that attitude. And unfortunately, that's a good thing for us. That's a good thing for everybody in the economy, because if everybody put their hands up in the air and just watched Netflix all day, that would be bad for everybody. The economy would totally tank. Okay, so here's my biggest / best recommendation, and it's to think of yourself like Bob the Builder. And I know it's kind of silly, but I've talked about this in different ways, but really, this is a simple approach to growing and to getting into putting yourself in a better position, not just during this pandemic, but at any point. And it's to look at building your skills, building your business, building your understanding, and building your relevant experiences. There's kind of other things you can build, but just as long as you're doing that every day, it doesn't have to be perfect every day. It's not like you can't ever watch Netflix. It's just you need to have a focus of how can I build. It's kind of like there's a lot of business opportunities that I see out there where they're like, oh, you can make $150 today, but it's not like a repeatable thing. It's not like something you can build on. It's not something that you can make $150 next month. It's just something to make money now. Sort of like, even though it's unethical and it's illegal to like buy up all the toilet paper in your city and then sell it online for 10 times, but it's also not building. You're not building towards a business. That's not going to be viable 3 months down the line or whatever. And so really think about building towards something and it's not just building randomly, building with some intention. You have any thoughts on this, Michael?
I totally agree. Just a quick note, Suzette said if you can raise your mic a little bit, she's
Oh, I
having a
see
hard
that.
time
Okay,
hearing.
let's see here.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Um, yeah, I think all of these things on here, so building, David Mills says build or beg, right? That was a couple years ago. That was like the theme of the entire year over in OMG. And I know a lot of you guys are OMGers. So, building your skill sets as it relates to your business, running a business and being somebody who works in your business, there's two different skill sets that you need there. And then, but also building your understanding of what it takes to have a successful business, doing that. The relevant experience, I think, is also important. What you were saying there, David, is there's one part about going out there and I need to make rent, and you just need to go out there and make some money, right? And that's different than if your need is going out there and making some money right now for your rent, and you have two different ways of doing it, something that's going to get you now money, or something that you can build on and get now money plus uh, add on something else for your business. Take that route, right? And that's where I think a lot of people might fall short, is they look at the now money, they take the first option that comes up instead of taking a little bit more time to think of, is there another way that I can hook this into being some now money plus building something into my business.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Suzette, let me know if I think I turned the volume up. I'm using kind of a platform. Is that better? Michael, that's better?
Yeah, it's a lot louder. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if it's too loud, let me know. Let's see. We have a question. So true on building the things at this time. Suresh says you can build SOPs or even automate the process. Yep, that's true. This will help you with a vision, what teams do we needed, and what to be trained immediately. Yeah, there's all sorts of different building, and that's why I use OneNote a lot. And it's a little bit off topic, but I'm just always kind of brainstorming and writing things and putting things in more detail. There's just always something that you can do to grow your business, which is kind of a good thing, but in a way it's a blessing and a curse, because there's always more. There's infinite work, which is fine. Okay, so now there's a caveat to my recommendation to do lots of training. I'm going to see if I can, let's take me and Michael away briefly, so that, because I don't really know where it would put us. And it's to kind of really plan out your like long-term goals and objectives and priorities. And that is one of the most important frames with which you want to put your training through, because it's much better. And this is something that I've never heard anybody else say it quite like this, but I think it's super, super important. It's better to pick a path that's just good and be consistent with it for a long period than it is to spend a bunch of time trying to find the best or the most awesome opportunity. So I was thinking about like the fact that I've been doing client SEO for a really long time, and I've kind of become known for that. And even though I don't think I did it the best, and even though I don't think it was like the best path for me at the start, I've committed to it, and I've been doing it for so long that there's a lot of opportunities that have come up that just wouldn't have been there. And just kind of knowing so much about it means that I can add a lot of value. I just have so much experience in that area, and I understand it at a much deeper level than I think most people, just because I've been doing it for so long. And again, I'm not saying it's the best path for everybody, but it is a good path for even people who are not like super salesy. And so I'm not saying that this is the path that you should pick. There's plenty of good paths: affiliate SEO, lead gen SEO, rank and rant. I mean, there's all sorts of different good paths out there. What I'm saying is you pick a good path and you just commit to it. You just say, I'm going to do it for a year. Now, maybe you misunderstood and it wasn't actually a good path, or it changes. So maybe that's not true a year from now, but really commit to it, err on the side of keeping to it. And then put that through, like if you're going to try to buy a training, I have my decision process here. Like, is it relevant? The number one most important factor is it relevant to my priorities and objectives? And if it isn't, it can be the best training in the world, I'm not going to get it. For example, Maps SEO. Maps SEO is so integral to basically every part of my business that anytime there's a good training, I try to snatch it up. There's not a lot of trainings on it. Trustworthiness of seller. There's a lot of different ways you can try to figure out the trustworthiness. Try to kind of match up what they say. Listen to them over time. It's kind of difficult, and you're going to have to learn. And even now, sometimes I buy stuff that I shouldn't buy. You can get recommendations from other people. Kind of the clarity of the offer. A lot of the times, a lot of the offers things that I've bought that I've been like, why did I buy this? Is because the offer wasn't very clear. Like they didn't explicitly say what is it we're trying to do here, and what is it you're gonna get. Also, I try to keep a training queue. So a queue of like, okay, these are the areas in which I want to improve, and here's kind of the trainings that I've purchased, and here's kind of like me going through it one at a time. And I always try to keep at least 2 items in there. Now, if it's like 10 long, okay, then I'm probably not going to buy things unless I really, really need it or I think it's really great or whatever. But if it gets to be less than 2, then actually now I need to go out and buy one. So, any thoughts on this, Michael?
Yeah, no, actually, you know what? Well, one of the things I picked up from you working with you here the last, few months here is this training queue. So I was like approaching this more as kind of like a target of opportunity. If I saw something good and it was related to what I was doing, then I'd grab it, right? But you're actually very, very proactive about the training, with the training queue and everything else like that. So that's the biggest thing. The other side I would say is when it comes to like the secret to success online, there's only one word for that, and that's consistency, right? So it doesn't matter if you're going to be in the client SEO, YouTube marketing, social media marketing. It doesn't really matter which path you choose, because you're in digital marketing, they're all good paths. They're like all of them. You can't make a bad choice there. That's the beauty of what we're doing right now. The secret is, if you're going to be doing it, pick one path and go and focus on it. Be consistent in that path for a long period of time, and your success will be inevitable. And it doesn't matter. It sounds kind of cliche. It sounds kind of funny. I guess this is the part I put my FTC disclaimer in there or whatever. But really, the consistency of your actions, right, going towards that one specific goal will make all the difference, whether you can make money, the difference in the amount of money that you make, and also if you can even make money at it.
Yeah, and having a list of trainings that I'm interested in is useful also when if you have like a budget for how much you can spend, you can put them all in one place and kind of review them, and then you can kind of prioritize them. And okay, I can only buy one. Let's say there's 10 trainings I want, I can only buy 2. Okay, well, this one is super important. It's super unique or whatever. I really, really want this one. Okay, so then you can kind of sort and compare them, and I think that's going to be important. So, speaking of that, we are running a promotion of somebody else who I think is really good, and this is the RYR Elite Local Tribe by Marie and Moon. They were unable to join us today. It's just scheduling is really hard right now. But this is the last day where you can get the bonus. I'm going to take me and Michael off here real quick so that you can see just a couple of screenshots in there where you can get the bonus from me and Michael that's unique to this offer. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with their own offer after today, but in order to get our bonus for sure, you need to buy today. Maybe if it's like 2 a.m. tomorrow, I'm not going to be like a stickler about exactly at midnight or whatever, but just in general, if you really want to make sure you get that, it's a kind of like a bridging bonus between the content that we already have, the techniques that we do, and their techniques, because what they do is pretty unique in the RYR. I'm really impressed with the way that they go about testing. Very few people out there actually do a lot of testing in a disciplined way, and they're kind of badasses at this. And there's so many different ways in which they test, and they're very pragmatic about it in that they look at like, okay, what really, how do we isolate these tests? I would do this in a scientific way, but what really works, not what should work, but what really works from a way that's financially makes sense in terms of, hey, how can we do this in a profitable way? And this is specifically with SEO. So if SEO is not part of your business model, it's not something you want to move into or aren't in right now, then it's not for you. But if SEO is, this is very unique, and I think that you're not going to regret having having them essentially on your team. And now I've gone through a lot of this. I don't know, Michael hasn't. How much of it you
had? I have as well.
What's that?
Yeah, I said I have as well.
Yeah, and other people have gotten into it before because I talked about them before, and I've gotten some excellent feedback. There's some really unique stuff in there that's just nobody else talks about. That they're kind of techniques, and they really care. And so they really want you to be successful. They're real. They're not trying to front. You're not going to see them driving a Lambo, not that I could know of. I mean, they're kind of low key in that way, but they're still really awesome. So, yeah, let's see. I love that. Keep the course, Dean says. Yeah, don't get distracted. Yeah. I mean, it's fine that Dean says, don't get distracted. That is very true in so many different ways. Your ability to get stuff done isn't about necessarily the quantity of things you do, but the quality. And the quality, especially in like an online business, goes way up when you can stay focused. In terms of within a certain time period in a day, like for 3 hours, if you can stay focused on a single task and just really get it done. But also in terms of like long term, like this year, stay focused on one major business objective, one major business goal until you get that accomplished. For many years, my number one goal was ranking number one for Dallas SEO Geek for many years. And it was just like everything was poured into that. Not everything, but the major focus of everything was that. That was the biggest focus. And I didn't stop until I got it. And guess what? I got it. It wasn't a year. It wasn't 2 years. It took several years, but it's super valuable and it's provided my business with lots of money. So, well, I do need to jump off here real quickly. So if you have any last minute questions, please feel free to ask them here. You can always ping me and Michael later. Michael, I've been jibber jabbering a lot. Any last comments that you want to make?
Well, on this specific stuff with Moon and Ree, I've seen a lot of SEO training over the years, and I really like the simplicity of how they do it because of all the testing that they've done. They're really able to go in there and give you some really good nuggets. That again, if SEO is part of your business model, then you're going to be able to achieve the rankings at a less expensive cost. And I think that adds to your bottom line profitability, and that adds to your ability to go out there and expand your business as well. So.
And they have case studies, which very few people put case studies in there, which is very useful for ramping up your earnings and your understanding of SEO because it kind of emulates experience. So yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're in the market for SEO training, definitely consider it. And buy through our link, ddd.link/RYRtribe. Here's my YouTube video. I don't know if you can copy that. I'll try to put a link to that somewhere in like the post or something. Let's see. I can put a link into the comments here. So if you want to come in here and watch the video, because I give more detail in that video in terms of screenshots on the inside and a little bit more thorough understanding. This isn't just about, hey, buy this stuff, but I think it's a great place to go because, right now, especially if you got laid off or you have extra time at home, you can do a little bit of Netflix, but I would focus more time on building your skills. That's going to be really valuable to you. So make you money, make you better off when all is said and done. So,
yep.
Well, thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you, Dean, Greg, Suresh, Suzette, and Rambabu. And anybody else who didn't comment, I appreciate you and your time. And have a great day. Thanks.